Smell of blood. It was on his breath. What does he do, I think? Drink it? I imagine him sipping it from a teacup, dipping a cookie into the stuff and pulling it out dripping red. Outside the window, a car comes to life, soft and quiet, like the purr of a cat, then fades away into the distance. It slips off as it arrived, unnoticed. The room seems to be spinning in slow, lopsided circles, and I wonder if I might black out. I lean forward and clutch the desk with one hand. The other still holds Peta's beautiful cookie. I think it had a tiger lily on it, but now it's been reduced to crumbs in my fist. I didn't even know I was crushing it, but I guess I had to hold on to something while my world veered out of control. A visit from President Snow. Districts on the verge of uprisings. A direct death threat to Gale, with others to follow. Everyone I love doomed. And who knows who else will pay for my actions, unless I turn things around on this tour. Quiet the discontent and put the president's mind at rest. And how? By proving to the country beyond any shadow of a doubt that I love Peta Malark. I can't do it, I think. I'm not that good. Peta's the good one, the likable one. He can make people believe anything. I'm the one who shuts up and sits back and lets him do as much of the talking as possible. But it isn't Peta who has to prove his devotion. It's me. I hear my mother's light, quick tread on the hall. She can't know, I think. Not about any of this. I reach my hands over the tray and quickly brush the bits of cookie from my palm and fingers. I take a shaky sip of my tea. Is everything all right, Katniss? She asked. It's fine. We never see it on television. But the president always visits the victors before the tour to wish them luck, I say brightly. My mother's face floods with relief. Oh, I thought there was some kind of trouble. No, not at all, I say. The trouble will start when my prep team sees how I've let my eyebrows grow back in. My mother laughs, and I think about how there was no going back after I took over caring for the family when I was 11. How I will always have to protect her. Why don't I start your bath? She asks. Great, I say, and I can see how pleased she is by my response. Since I've been home, I've been trying hard to mend my relationship with my mother, asking her to do things for me instead of brushing aside any offer of help, as I did for years out of anger, letting her handle all the money I won, returning her hugs instead of tolerating them. My time in the arena made me realize how I needed to stop punishing her for something she couldn't help, specifically the crushing depression she fell into after my father's death. Because sometimes things happen to people and they're not equipped to deal with them. Like me, for instance, right now. Besides, there's one wonderful thing she did when I arrived back in the district. After our families and friends had greeted Peta and me at the train station, there were a few questions aloud from reporters. Someone asked my mother what she thought of my new boyfriend, and she replied that while Peta was the very model of what a young man should be, I wasn't old enough to have any boyfriend at all. She followed this with a pointed look at Peta. There was a lot of laughter and comments like, "Somebody's in trouble," from the press, and Peta dropped my hand and sidestepped away from me. That didn't last long. There was too much pressure to act otherwise. But it gave us an excuse to be a little more reserved than what we'd been in the Capitol. And maybe it can help account for how little I've been seen in Peta's company since the cameras left. I go upstairs to the bathroom, where a steaming tub awaits. My mother has added a small bag of dried flowers that perfumes the air. None of us are used to the luxury of turning on a tap and having a limitless supply of hot water at our fingertips. We had only cold at our home in the seam, and a bath meant boiling the rest over the fire. I undress and lower myself into the silky water. My mother has poured in some kind of oil as well, and try to get a grip on things. The first question is who to tell, if anyone. Not my mother or Prim, obviously. They'd only become sick with worry. Not Gale. Even if I could get word to him, what would he do with the information anyway? If he were alone, I might try to persuade him to run away. Certainly he could survive in the woods. But he's not alone, and he'd never leave his family. Or me. When I get home, I'll have to tell him something about why our Sundays are a thing of the past. But I can't think about that now. Only about my next move. Besides, Gale is already so angry and frustrated at the capital that I sometimes think he's going to arrange his own uprising. The last thing he needs is an incentive. No, I can't tell anyone I'm leaving behind in District 12. There are still 3 people I might confide in, starting with Cinna, my stylist. But my guess is Cinna might already be at risk, and I don't want to pull him into any more trouble by closer association with me. Then there's Peta, who will be my partner in this deception. But how do I begin that conversation? Hey, Peta, remember how I told you I was kind of faking being in love with you? Well, I really need you to forget about that now and act extra in love with me, or the president might kill Gale. I can't do it. Besides, Peta will perform well whether he knows what's at stake or not. That leaves Hamish. Drunken, crazy, confrontational Hamish, who I just poured a basin of ice water on. As my mentor in the games, it was his duty to keep me alive. I only hope he's still up for the job. I slide down into the water, letting it block out the sounds all around me. I wish the tub would expand so I could go swimming, like I used to on hot summer Sundays in the woods with my father. Those days were a special treat. We would leave early in the morning and hike farther into the woods than usual to a small lake he'd found while hunting. I don't even remember learning to swim. I was so young when he taught me. I just remember diving, turning somersaults and paddling around. The muddy bottom of the lake beneath my toes. The smell of blossoms and greenery, floating on my back as I am now, staring at the blue sky while the chatter of the woods was muted by the water. He'd bag the waterfowl that nested around the shore. I'd hunt for eggs in the grass, and we'd both dig for Katniss roots, the plant for which he named me, in the shallows. At night, when we got home, my mother would pretend not to recognize me because I was so clean. Then she'd cook up an amazing dinner of roasted duck and baked Katniss tubers with gravy. I never took Gale to the lake. I could have. It's time-consuming to get there, but the waterfowl are such easy pickings you can make up for lost hunting time. It's a place I've never really wanted to share with anyone, though, a place that belonged only to my father and me. Since the games, when I've had little to occupy my days, I've gone there a couple of times. The swimming was still nice, but mostly the visits depressed me. Over the course of the last 5 years, the lake's remarkably unchanged, and I'm almost unrecognizable. Even underwater, I can hear the sounds of commotion. Honking car horns, shouts of greeting, doors banging shut. It can only mean my entourage has arrived. I just have time to towel off and slip into a robe before my prep team bursts into the bathroom. There's no question of privacy. When it comes to my body, we have no secrets, these 3 people and me. Katniss, your eyebrows! Venia shrieks right off, and even with the black cloud hanging over me, I have to stifle a laugh. Her aqua hair has been styled so it sticks out in sharp points all over her head, and the gold tattoos that used to be confined above her brows have curled around under her eyes, all contributing to the impression that I've literally shocked her. Octavia comes up and pats Venia's back soothingly, her curvy body looking plumper than usual next to Venia's thin, angular one. There, you can fix those in no time. But what am I going to do with those nails? She grabs my hand and pins it flat beneath her two pea green ones. No, her skin isn't exactly pea green now. It's more of a light evergreen. The shift in shade is no doubt an attempt to stay abreast of the capricious fashion trends of the capital. Really, Katniss, you could have left me something to work with, she wails. It's true. I've bitten my nails to stubs in the past couple months. I thought about trying to break the habit, but I couldn't think of a good reason I should. Sorry, I mutter. I hadn't really been spending much time worrying about how it might affect my prep team. Flavius lifts a few strands of my wet, tangled hair. He gives his head a disapproving shake, causing his orange corkscrew curls to bounce around. Has anyone touched this since you last saw us? He asks sternly. Remember, we specifically asked you to leave your hair alone. Yes, I say, grateful that I can show I haven't totally taken them for granted. I mean, no one's cut it. I did remember that. No, I didn't. It's more like the issue never came up. Since I've been home, all I've done is stick it in its usual old braid down my back. This seems to mollify them, and they all kiss me, set me on a chair in my bedroom, and as usual, start talking nonstop without bothering to notice if I'm listening. While Venia reinvents my eyebrows, and Octavia gives me fake nails, and Flavius massages goo into my hair, I hear all about the capital. What a hit the games were, how dull things have been since then, how no one can wait until Peeta and I visit again at the end of the victory tour. After all, it won't be long before the capital begins gearing up for the quarter quell. Isn't it thrilling?